I absolutely love cemeteries. They are so full of stories. And as the archivist for the Museum of Dufferin, I see myself as the keeper of those stories for Dufferin County. For historians, archivists, genealogists, and other researchers, cemeteries are often a valuable source of information. What we forget is the story of the cemetery itself can be just as important as what we find written on those headstones. Welcome to Greenwood Cemetery in Orangeville. For years, the citizens of Orangeville had been raising concerns about their 3 in-town cemeteries. They were being built up, they were filling in, and there was no room to grow. They were also really close to the town's water source. And especially during the spring floods, this was a bit of a problem. In July 1876, Orangeville Town Council agreed to create a cemetery far from the town center. They purchased 20 acres off of a farm just outside of town. Here they built a park-style cemetery with rolling hills and large trees and opened it to burials in October of 1876. Greenwood was opened as the second public cemetery in all of Ontario. Once the cemetery was opened, they relocated the burials from those 3 in-town cemeteries here to Greenwood Cemetery. The Anglican Church, St. Mark's, purchased about 4 acres from the town, specific for Anglican burials. Those were all relocated to that section. The Presbyterians and Baptist burials were relocated in different wards around here in Greenwood. Many of these didn't have a headstone and were reinterred without them. In some instances, in the old Anglican section, primarily because the burial registers were lost to a fire, some more modern burials were made over top of the original reinterments. This is why archives are so important. We know where the bodies are buried. Here in the back corner of Ward 4 is Potter's Field. Most cemeteries have one, a place to bury the unclaimed, the indigent, and the unknown. The markers placed here along the fence are likely from the old Presbyterian cemetery. They were put here so that the deaths would not be forgotten, even though the bodies were likely too decomposed to have been moved back here to Greenwood Cemetery. This half-acre piece of land is full of burials, mostly from our county jail. The jail served to incarcerate criminals, but its main use was more as a type of early poorhouse, our form of social services back in the 1800s. Many of the county's poor or indigent were sent there to be cared for, and they lived out their lives there. When they died in the jail, sometimes the families claimed them and put them in the family plot. Sometimes they were sent here to Potter's Field. The county paid the town of Orangeville $10 for every burial, which didn't cover much more than digging the hole, the minister's services, and maybe a coffin. But more than likely, the burial was just done in a shroud. Until recently, there was absolutely no sign of their burial here in Potter's Field, except for a note in the county death register, the newspapers, or the jail register that said, "Buried in Potter's Field." These 3 marble pieces sticking up from the ground are recently located grave markers. We know there are over 60 people buried in this half-acre area, but we'll never be able to say exactly where they're buried. The records don't tell us much more than Potter's Field. It's my hope that those the County of Dufferin cared for, the indigent and those suffering from mental health issues who are buried here in Potter's Field, will be memorialized in this spot, their names not forgotten to time. For researchers, this is a reminder that to find your ancestor, remember the history of the cemetery and look beyond what's on the headstone.